In my head it's already autumn. I want pumpkin everything. So this is this nice floppy paperback. I actually got this recently. I'm a little ghost mug. Hello lovely bookworms and welcome to an autumn priority TBR. These are going to be 10 books that I would love to read this autumn season. As you probably know, I do Game of the Books every single month, but I want to see if the prompts I get actually match up with some of the books I have, and I think that'll be nice to do. Autumn is fastly approaching. I think it is 21st of September usually. In my head it's already autumn. I want pumpkin everything. I have my little ghosty. Let me show you. I actually got this recently. I'm a little ghost mug. Isn't that just the cutest? Let's put them here for emphasis. Anyway, these are going to be 10 books, different categories and reasons behind them that I would like to read during this autumn season. Most of them at least give me some sort of autumnal vibe, and I will definitely have to read a couple of backs to re-immerse myself into the books I've once bought. That said, let's just go in no particular order and grab some books. Oh well, I have them down here, but grab the books that I want to prioritize for this autumn season. So the first book on my list that I would love to prioritize is a middle grade. I think middle grade is perfect for the autumn season because they tend to have a lot of autumnal atmospheres and settings. And the first one I have is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. This is about a girl named Luna, and she lives in a village. Well, she was born in a village, and then that village sacrifices a baby to the witch every year. The witch, however, is really kind and imbues these children with starlight, I think, and then gives them to the other side of the wood to go into a loving family. However, with Luna, I think she doesn't give her starlight, but she gives her moonlight, and so this little baby girl gets a lot of magical abilities, and so the witch decides to actually raise her herself, and that's the premise of the book. So I'm really excited to see how this will entail, because I feel like off the bat I don't know what the plot will be, and usually from a back I know sort of start to end. There's a war, there's strife, there's something to expect, but I have no idea what to expect. Is this going to be her trying to find her magic? Is this going to be her going on an adventure? I have no clue. So I'm really excited to see what this book will bring me. As I said, I think middle grades are great for autumn season, so I have another middle grade to share with you, and that is this one, The Whisperwicks by Jordan Lees. The Labyrinth of Lost and Found. I think this is the first book in a series. This follows Benjamin Creek, and he actually believes in science, logic, and doesn't believe in magic. However, he one day, I think, receives a doll that can transform into a bird, and he finds himself in the world of Rethenwold. I hope that's how I pronounce it. And he actually has to find his way home. So this is very much an adventure story, a very magical one. I always feel like the middle grade adventure stories are very magical and very autumnal in their feel, their atmosphere. It is quite a dense middle grade, I have to say, and I got this one with these gorgeous sprayed edges, being dark blue. I am quite excited. I know nothing from this author or the series. I haven't heard any feedback, but I picked it up mostly because I was intrigued by the cover and then the spine, and then when I read the back I was sold. So I picked this up, I think, this year, and I'm very enthusiastic to see what it will be and if I'll like it. So that's going on my priority list. So next up I have a fantasy book that I've had for a while and I think screams autumn. This is definitely one I want to prioritize because it's quite old on my shelves, and that is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. So this is a story of sisters, and the sisters live at the end of the 19th century in Salem or New Salem? In Salem, I think. And these sisters, they actually join together as the suffragists of New Salem, and they want to pursue sort of the old world, and they find a lot of things that would surprise them, at least it says. And they're hunted. It's definitely a world wherein women can't vote yet. They don't really have a lot of power, and they have to go into magic. And it says there's no such thing as witches, but there will be. So I think this is also filled with magic, more of an urban fantasy kind. Usually I'm not an urban fantasy reader, but I feel like this will be right up my alley. I usually really like stories about powerful women, and the family in here, I think it's going to be really nice to read about these sisters. It is quite dense, hence why it's probably been on my shelf for a while, but I'm excited to dive into it. And the cover is just beautiful. I was gifted this book by Cheyenne a long time ago, and no, nothing special, I was checking, and I owe it to Cheyenne to finally read this book. So Cheyenne, if you're watching, we're doing it hopefully this autumn. So the next book is, I think, the only one in the genre that I have on this list, and it's one that I've acquired after reading a different book from this author, and that is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. So this follows a newly divorced woman called Kara, who is going to her Uncle Earl's house to help him, and his house is also a promising spot for tourists because it is the Museum of Natural Wonders, Curiosity and Taxidermy. And during one of the nights that Kara is closing, she actually finds a hole in the drywall, and as she enters that with, I think, her new friend Simon, they find an area that cannot be the same plane of existence, and they figure out that it's a lot more dangerous than it looks. I feel like T. Kingfisher's books, they're thrillers, but they always have the best start to end. They're deliciously supernatural, and I'm very excited to see if this will live up to the hype. Also, it definitely helps that this is this nice floppy paperback. I just, in general, love floppy paperbacks. It makes reading so much easier. So this is going on my priority list for this autumn. Next, I'm gonna go for another middle grade, and this is definitely one that I'm continuing. I read the first and the second book in the series, and that is Shadowgast by Thomas Taylor. So this is the third book in the An Eerie on Sea mystery series. I think there's 5 books if I'm not mistaken, and in this one we follow Irby and Violet. So Irby is actually a boy who lives in a hotel. They've gone through a lot of adventures in the first book. I'm not going to say too much, but this has the best atmosphere. I feel the first book, which is Malamander, which should be somewhere on my shelf, I read in 1 or 2 sittings and was about, I think, a legend. And usually a lot of these things, or a lot of these books, the second one also had a legend. I feel like this third one will as well. An hypnotic stage magician. So that is going to be very interesting. I feel like this one will also be around that October, November, probably October month. When I look at the cover, it feels very autumn to me. I don't know, maybe it'll say, I'm not completely sure. Usually it starts, it literally says, do you remember your first ghastly night, the first time you saw Eerie on Sea's special Halloween show? So this one's going to be perfect for October, so hope that I can get that on there for the October TBR. But I'm really excited to continue on with this series. They're quick, easy, and so much fun to read with enough intrigue to keep me going. So definitely adding this to the priority list for this autumn. So next up I have another fantasy, and this is one that has been on my TBR list too long, considering it's one of my favorite authors, and that is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faizal. So this is the first book, I think either in a series or duology, not completely sure. I've had this for a while. I'm sure the second book is already out. I'm not completely sure on that though. And in this one we follow Arthi, and she has a tea room, I believe, and in that tea room she actually gets most of the weirdest outcasts and just, I also think, criminals, and she hatches a plan to infiltrate the sinister glittering vampire society known as the Ethereum. However, not everyone is on her side, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of truth. There's a heist part of this, and it's also not the biggest of hardbacks that I have encountered in my lifetime. So I hope that this is going to be a somewhat quick read. In general, I'm just really excited to tick off another one of Hafsa's reads. As you probably know, We Hunt the Flame and... where's the second one? The We Hunt the Flame duology is by far my favorite. Why can't I remember the second name? It's a red book, isn't it? We Feed the Stars, that's it. We Feed the Stars is the second book. I just loved that duology, and the writing style and just the way that she weaves her stories is beautiful. So I'm really excited to dive into a new one of her reads, a new one of her books. And also I think vampires are perfect for autumn, so this is definitely going on the list. As some of you probably know, murder mysteries are some of my favorite types of books, and one author in particular who's more of a thriller author than a murder mystery author, I found a book by that is, at least it feels to me a little bit like And Then There Were None, and that is none other than One by One by Frida McFadden. I've really been meaning to pick up some Frida McFadden books. I also got gifted one by my boyfriend, but I'm putting this one on the list first. First in, first out. This is about Claire, and Claire actually needs a break from her work and raising her children, so she wants to go to a resort with her friends, just going in a hot tub with a book, relaxing. However, their minivan breaks down, and they have no other option than to go to the resort or the accommodation on foot. However, as they go through this forest, one by one, something happens to one of her companions, and they actually start to believe that something is happening to them, and it's not just an accident, and that is what's going to unravel in this story. Like I said, it feels a little bit like And Then There Were None. It's not completely secluded, but they're in a forest area, so as secluded as it gets, I suppose, while you're on the run. I'm just interested to see how Frida McFadden's writing will be, because I've never read anything by her, and I think this is more up my alley than some of the other thrillers that I've read the backs of. So we're gonna start with this one. So the second to last book is another very witchy, at least it feels witchy to me, witchy read, and that is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. I'm pretty sure I've described this book as a middle grade, but it's definitely not from really reading the back. So this follows Annie, who is done with playing nice and safe, and so she actually, after she's being dumped by her longtime boyfriend, moves home, and she gets a new teaching job far away in a small little village. Everything she finds is lovely, cute, quaint, until she meets Sophie. Sophie is a woman that lives in the town, and the town seems to be afraid of her. And along the way, Annie feels like she wants to spend more and more time with Sophie, yet there is this little nagging of something going on, and it literally says, Sophie's appearance is uncanny and ageless. Her mansion in the middle of the woods feels a little unearthly, and she does seem to wield a certain power, but she couldn't be, could she? A deliciously dark feminist tale of witches, bad ex-boyfriends, good coffee, and friendly spiders. And I think if that doesn't sum up, or at least parts of your autumn experience, what's going on? So this book is going on the list. Then last but certainly not least, we have the biggest book on here, and one that I acquired last November and has had a lot of debate about it. Everyone seems to love it, and that is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. It literally says the #1 global phenomenon. I don't like it when they put that on books. We'll see if it actually lives up to the hype, but what this is about, I think, let me read the little 4 lines that are on the back. It says, he's fire and brimstone, I'm shattered ice, I'll gladly burn beneath him until the world comes crumbling down. So this book follows, I think, Rave or Rava, and she actually has a job. She is an assassin for the rebellion. However, she is one day caught and then imprisoned by the Guild of Nobles, which are a powerful group of fae. And the other protagonist in this book is called Khan, and he actually is a king who doesn't want to be a king, and in the depths of his jail cells, his prisons, I think, he actually stumbles upon Rave, and together they seek truths that threaten to unravel everything they knew about their world and each other. I'm really excited to see what it says. It also says best-selling sensation When the Moon Hatched will transport you into a world filled with magic, dragons, and love that blazes through the ages. So this was definitely an instant purchase, but not an instant read because of the size. So I'm excited to put this on the list, and hopefully I can get to it in this autumn season or before the year is up. Let's just give me a little bit more headway with this one. And those were all 10 of the books that I'm going to prioritize on my TBR this autumn season. I hope that you have enjoyed this. It's a little bit of a different kind of video. I know it's not truly an autumn TBR because I don't have a set time, but I want to see if I can incorporate these into my TBR game. If there are books that you think I would like, autumnally or otherwise, let me know. I would always love to know more. I do have quite a couple of books, 176 to be exact, on my shelf that I've yet to read, but we can always have more books. Let it be an actual library. That said, that is everything for this video. I hope you've enjoyed this type of video. If so, let me know. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and press that little bell icon so I get post notifications every single time that we post. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!